Welcome to this week's edition of the Site for Wight Talking News for Friday the 19th of February 2021.
Alison reading an article from the Isle of Wight County Press entitled Rapid COVID Testing from Next Week to Cut Transmission Rate. Rapid testing is set to launch on the Isle of Wight next week in a bid to drive down coronavirus transmission rates. People who do not have COVID-19 symptoms and cannot work from home will soon be able to book a free test thanks to the opening of new community test sites in Newport, Ryde and Sandown. Around 1 in 3 people with COVID have no symptoms, so could be spreading the disease without knowing it. Broadening testing to identify those showing no symptoms will mean discovering positive cases quicker, enabling people to self-isolate and prevent further spread of the virus. The rapid turnaround lateral flow tests, supplied by NHS Test and Trace, are aimed at those who have to leave home to attend work, such as taxi and bus drivers, retail workers, building or maintenance workers. They are also for people who are in contact with others who are vulnerable, such as carers, and who are not covered by other programmes. Isle of Wight Council leader, Councillor Dave Stewart, said, "While everyone should be staying at home as much as possible, there are some residents who have a legitimate need to be out and about because they cannot work from home. By offering free testing to these people, we will be able to quickly identify anyone who may be unknowingly passing the virus on to others. They can then self-isolate immediately, helping to safeguard the workforce and provide business continuity. It is important for businesses to keep their workplace safe by encouraging staff to attend these tests regularly. Testing is quick, simple and free and will protect lives and livelihoods on the island. It is also important to stress that taking the test, even if the result is negative, does not discount the need to continue following national guidance around social distancing, wearing a face covering, and washing your hands properly and regularly. These simple steps are still vital in preventing the transmission of the virus. The tests do not require a laboratory to process and usually provide results within 30 minutes. They involve taking a swab inside the nose and throat, tonsils, using a long cotton bud. People will do the swab themselves in booths, which will be thoroughly cleaned after each use. Testing will be available at the following locations, with further sites due to be announced in due course: County Hall, High Street, Newport; the Heights Leisure Centre, Broadway, Sandown; the Learning and Development Centre, Westridge, Brading Road, Ryde. Tests must be booked in advance and further details will be published on Monday on how to do this. Simon Bryant, the Council's Director of Public Health, said, "This is yet another tool to help us all continue to work together to break the transmission of COVID-19. The new centres will make it even easier to get tested, so if you are out because you cannot work from home, then please take the opportunity to book a test. And please, if you own a business, encourage your staff to book twice weekly community tests and help keep the island safe." All efforts to find people without symptoms work hand in hand with the existing free testing service for those with symptoms. Anyone with one or more of these symptoms, a high temperature, a new continuous cough, or a loss or change to sense of smell or taste, should isolate and book a test at www.nhs.uk/coronavirus or by calling 119. Home test kits are also available. The testing site for people who are symptomatic is located at New Close County Cricket Ground, Blackwater Road, Newport. Workplace coronavirus testing is also available to businesses with staff who cannot work from home during lockdown. Companies with 50 or more employees can register online for workplace coronavirus tests.
This is Den reading from the Isle of Wight County Press. Art teacher's caricature of Rylan Clark Neal endorsed by the Star. An island artist had his work thrust into the spotlight this week when his caricature of TV personality and BBC Radio 2 presenter Rylan Clark Neal received a glowing endorsement from the Star. Adam Brown, an art teacher at Christ the King College in Newport, has spent his spare time during the lockdown diligently perfecting his craft. Since last March, he has created an impressive portfolio of more than 300 caricatures depicting familiar celebrity faces, including stars of stage and screen. Uploading his work to Instagram, he successfully captured the likeness of Rylan, which caught the former This Morning's presenter's eye. He was spotted holding his comedic representation on the set of Ready Steady Cook, which he is currently filming for BBC One. Adam said, "I was thrilled to receive the photo of Rylan, and it was great that he took the time to acknowledge my work. Caricature art is all about amplifying a person's prominent features. Some people may struggle with this, but happily Rylan loved it."
This is an article from Isle of Wight County Press, read by Terry. Woman mauled by her own dangerous dog could face jail. A woman whose life was saved by her cousin and police first aid, but who needed major surgery after her dog mauled her, faces the prospect of being sent behind bars. Police were called to an incident in Golf Link Road, Sandown, following reports of a dog dangerously out of control on the night of July the 19th last year. Reports were of a Staffordshire Bull Terrier and Rhodesian Ridgeback cross called Rusty, which had attacked and dragged his owner, Charlotte Harriet Louise Mathers, to the ground in the middle of the road. When officers arrived, they saw an Audi A4 parked up to help in the middle of the road with blood down the front and sides of the vehicle, with Mathers, her cousin Lachan Downs, and the car's owners James and Julie Spratley inside it, and the dog circling the vehicle, fixated on it, said Liz Miller, prosecuting at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on Tuesday afternoon last. Police initially tried to run the dog over, but failed, so armed response officers took the decision to fire 5 shots to destroy the dog. Armed officers then swarmed the scene and gave first aid to Mathers and Mr. Downs, whose injuries were initially treated as life-threatening. Both had very serious injuries. Due to the horrific extent of her injuries, Mathers was rushed to Salisbury District Hospital, while Mr. Downs, not as seriously injured, was taken to St Mary's Hospital, Newport, explained Miss Miller. Mathers was in the car on top of Mrs. Spratley, in and out of consciousness. Officers had to apply a tourniquet to her arm to stop the bleeding.
Hello, this is an article from Island Echo. St Mary's won't deviate from guidelines over PPE for staff. Despite calls for more personal protective equipment, PPE, to protect staff against the latest strains of COVID-19, no changes will be made to what will be issued to Isle of Wight NHS trust teams. Nationally, fears about the UK variant of COVID, which is thought to be 70 times more transmissible, and the South African variant have led to calls for increased PPE levels for frontline workers from trade unions. However, a review of the guidance from Public Health England PHE, has said the levels of PPE currently being worn by staff are appropriate. Speaking at the meeting of the Isle of Wight NHS Trust Board, Director of Nursing Alice Webster said she was pleased with the recommendation from PHE, and although there had been a movement within the trust to review the levels, they would not change, she said. The guidance is very clear, and we are clear about what they, staff, should be wearing. While we've had a number of outbreaks, this has not necessarily been due to the PPE they have worn or the way it was worn. Steve Parker, Medical Director, said to deviate from the national guidance from PHE would be inappropriate. He said while the Trust recognised a professional challenge about how people use their PPE and the pressure from trade unions to enhance the level, staff would maintain the current guidance. Recently, levels of COVID positive patients currently being treated in St Mary's Hospital have been dropping. Latest data shows on the 9th of February, 48 patients occupied COVID beds, compared to a peak in January of 95.
Alison reading from the Island Echo. Solent NHS Trust proud to play its part in national rollout of COVID-19 vaccine. At a time when more than 15 million people have received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccination in the UK, Solent NHS Trust is proudly recognising the work of colleagues, volunteers and system partners in successfully creating and mobilising 4 large-scale vaccination centres across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. Solent's first large-scale vaccination centre in Southampton went live to the public on the 25th of January, with the 3 remaining at Basingstoke Fire Station, St James's Hospital in Portsmouth and the Riverside Centre in Newport opening their doors to residents on the 1st of February. However, it is still unknown exactly how many vaccinations have taken place on the Isle of Wight specifically. The government are seemingly refusing to allow local authority data to be released. It is known that 397,827 first and second doses combined have been administered across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight jointly as of the 11th of February. Anne Dyer, 58, from Seaview, received her first vaccination at the Riverside Centre alongside her daughter, Lindsay Rivers, 36, who also lives in Seaview. Anne is a carer for relatives and a childminder, while Lindsay is a healthcare worker. Lindsay said, "I'm glad that I've had it, as you just need to eliminate what's going around. You need to be safe. For me personally, having the vaccine is the right thing to do. I would like to be able to take my children out to fun places and take them on holiday. It will just be nice to get back to normal, see friends and family. I found the process amazing. It's really quick. Everyone's really friendly and helpful." Anne added, "I'm really pleased I've been vaccinated. I would say to people, just do it. We've all got to do it. We've all got a responsibility to have it done. Once the family's all vaccinated, it will give us some more freedom. I'm hoping we can go on our holiday to Switzerland once we're out of this. I think the setup at the Riverside Centre is brilliant. I felt safe, with really supportive staff." David Noyes, Chief Operating Officer at Solent NHS Trust, said, "We are really proud to be playing a key role in the NHS's biggest ever vaccination programme. It has been fantastic to see the positive reactions of all the people we've been vaccinating across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight as they received their first doses. We are incredibly thankful to our partners who have worked with us to ensure that the centres can vaccinate as many people as possible, both now and in the longer term. The work of healthcare professionals, not only from our own trust, but across the NHS, as well as colleagues from the Fire and Rescue Service, the military, St John's Ambulance, Hampshire Search and Rescue, and many more, as well as plenty of fantastic local volunteers from across the communities we serve, has been incredible to see in action. The programme has created a genuine social movement, with people coming together to work together and fight back. We know that the vaccination is a real way out of this pandemic. We are encouraging everyone eligible to get vaccinated against COVID-19 when they are invited by the NHS. Vaccinations are being offered to people in line with recommendations from the independent JCVI, with all over 65s now invited for their first dose. People need an appointment to get their vaccine. They cannot just walk in without an appointment. Most people will be invited by a letter and will then have the opportunity to go onto the national booking system and book an appointment slot or call 119. Appointments are released regularly, and there are really good levels of availability for appointments, usually within a day or so, at each of the centres. More slots are released every couple of days, so keep checking back.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Main East Cowes route to undergo 2 months of major works. Isle of Wight motorists can expect delays on a main route in and out of East Cowes as 2 months of major repair works begin next month, March. The project in York Avenue, part of ongoing work by Island Roads to improve the island's highway network, is being undertaken early in the year when COVID restrictions are in place, and so work can be completed before the start of the main tourism season. The work is being split into separate phases to ensure as much of the route as possible can remain open to traffic. The project is due to get underway on March the 1st. The 4 phases of the rebuilding elements are expected to last a total of 64 days, while the resurfacing is scheduled for 6 nights to be split into 2 phases, again to minimise disruption, at the end of the reconstruction phases. Island Road's construction manager, Keith Gourlay, said, "Residents and visitors will know that there are sections of York Avenue that are in great need of rebuilding and resurfacing. This work is intended to improve the road quality now and for many years to come. The strengthening of the foundations is a process that required some excavations that are best carried out during the daylight and when temperatures can be expected to be warmer. Because of their depth, it is not possible to safely reopen the road after each shift, so as a result, the closures, which we have sought to limit by phasing the work, will have to be 24-hour ones. The project involves the strengthening of the highway foundations to make it more durable in the future. This requires fairly deep excavations, which will mean each work section will require a 24-hour day road closure for the duration of the phase, with local diversions in place. The scale of the work is also large, with approximately 3,000 square metres of road being excavated up to a depth of over 2 feet, that's 650 millimetres, with some of the removal being done by hand, given the presence of underground services in the area. Keith said that while the project was being undertaken outside of the main holiday period, working in the winter and early spring did make the project more susceptible to weather delays. We cannot control the weather, of course, but we will ensure we keep the local community and the media updated with the progress of the scheme. We have already held discussions with local elected members, and we will continue to engage, as we know this will be a project that will, because of its size and scope, have a local impact. But we do hope that any short-term local inconvenience is offset by the longer-term benefit of having the ride quality of this very busy gateway route improved. We would like to thank the local community and road users in advance for their understanding and cooperation. Resurfacing is currently scheduled for between June 2nd and 9th, shortly after the reconstruction, though the actual dates may vary slightly depending on the progress of the reconstruction phase. The aim is for the road to be fully opened over the Maybank holiday, while arrangements will also be made to ensure there is no impediment to polling in the local elections on May the 6th. Details of the scheme's progress will be given regularly by Twitter @Island Roads and via a dedicated page accessible from the homepage of www.islandroads.com.
This is Den reading from the Isle of Wight County Press. Freshwater 5. Fishermen taking new evidence to Court of Appeal. Two members of the Freshwater 5, all of whom maintain their innocence of a £53 million cocaine smuggling plot, will have their convictions considered by the Court of Appeal next week. Lawyers acting for Jonathan Beer and Daniel Payne will present judges with fresh expert evidence they say disproves the prosecution's case that they conspired to use a fishing boat to collect drugs from a container ship in the English Channel and deposit them in Freshwater Bay. The new evidence uncovered by Law Charity Appeal is based on radar data from a law enforcement vessel which wasn't included at the trial. The 5 men were sentenced to a total of 104 years imprisonment at Kingston Crown Court in 2011 after being convicted by an 11-1 majority jury verdict. Scaffolding business owner Beer, fishing boat skipper Jamie Green and crew member Zoran Drezic were each handed down 24 years imprisonment, while fisherman Payne and Scott Birtwistle received 18 and 14-year sentences respectively. Payne and Birtwistle have been released from prison, while the other men are still serving their sentences. The men were convicted after a trial which found that in the early hours of May the 30th, 2010, Green's fishing boat, the Galway Moor, manoeuvred in the wake of the MSC Oriane to collect 250 kilos of cocaine jettisoned from the container ship, which had travelled from Brazil. No evidence was put forward that drugs had been present on either vessel, but holdalls of cocaine strung along a rope found floating in Freshwater Bay were recovered by Serious Organised Crime Agency, SOCA, officers the following day. In 2018, the Crown Prosecution Service disclosed radar data from a border agency vessel, which had been monitoring the MSC Oriane and Galway Moor. The failure to analyse or disclose the data is described as a major failing by Joel Bethanen, QC, and Annabelle Timon in court submissions made as part of the appeal application on behalf of Beer and Payne. They say the radar data shows the Galway Moor never got sufficiently close to the MSC Oriane to permit the transfer of drugs. They also say it shows that another small vessel travelled to Freshwater Bay, where the drugs were recovered, shortly after the Galway had sailed nearby. The alternative suspect vessel was not known about at trial. Emily Bolton, Director of Appeal and Solicitor for the Freshwater 5, said, "This will be the first time a court has had an opportunity to consider this new radar data, which undermines the prosecution case on several fronts. Had the jury been told about this evidence, it is highly unlikely these men, who have always protested their innocence, would have been convicted. We are hopeful the Court of Appeal will recognise this by quashing the convictions. After years of wrongful imprisonment, the Freshwater Five deserve to finally be reunited with their families.
Hello, this is Sue reading an article from Island Echo. Parking capacity reviewed as an 15,000 extra cars expected on the roads in the next 5 years. With an estimated 15,000 more cars on the Isle of Wight in 2026 than in 2011, the council is looking at whether it has enough parking capacity to support the demand. The council's now approved parking development plan, ideas to generate steady income and keep up with the projected growth have been suggested. Council-owned car parks have been reviewed for regeneration projects, disposal for developments or the potential of additional spaces. Car parks in Newport and Ventnor are not considered suitable for additional parking needs, but it has been suggested that variable message signs be installed in the towns to advise motorists which car parks have empty spaces. Those at risk of being disposed of include the Mornington Road car park in Cowes and part of Fort Street in Sandown. While the Fort Street car park is currently underutilised and only creates a low income, the council expect it could increase for the potential increase of activity at Dinosaur Isle, so not all of the car park has been earmarked for development. More spaces could be provided in Cross Street car park Cowes, where a lightweight deck could be installed to improve multi-storey parking. However, there have been warnings this could be costly. Consultation with key stakeholders highlighted ways the car parks could improve, including pay-as-you-exit parking, the possibility of the first hour or hours free, and measures to encourage people back to the high street following the COVID-19 pandemic. As an increase to the revenue stream, the Isle of Wight Council proposed in last year's budget to increase parking charges, something Cabinet Member for Strategic Resources Councillor Stuart Hutchinson said did not seem to deter people from buying more cars. Councillor Ian Ward, Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Transport, however, said it was Council's strategy to reduce car usage instead of building any more car parks. With more people working from home, which could potentially stick after the COVID pandemic is over, he felt the strategy may work. Councillor Ward said the plan was a live document that could be adapted to any arising situation.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Isle of Wight NHS CEO. Coronavirus made January most challenging month of career. The CEO of the Isle of Wight NHS Trust says coronavirus made January the most challenging month she has ever experienced. Government figures show 3,810 cases of COVID-19 were confirmed on the island in January, more than half of the island's total cases. Speaking at a meeting of the Trust's board, Maggie Oldham, Chief Executive of the IOW NHS Trust, said, "January was the most challenging month I have experienced in the 39 years I have worked in healthcare." According to figures from NHS England, 277 COVID-positive patients were admitted to or diagnosed with the virus in the previous 24 hours at St Mary's Hospital in Newport in January. At its highest point on January the 18th, 95 beds were occupied at once, 13 requiring mechanical ventilation. The challenging month also saw patients airlifted from St Mary's to the mainland, as the Trust no longer had the capacity to treat them. During January, 66 people died in hospital where they had tested positive for COVID-19 or where it was mentioned on their death certificate. It is the highest month for Isle of Wight COVID deaths so far. Case numbers and infection rates are falling, and latest data shows the number of beds occupied at St Mary's by COVID-positive patients is dropping, with 48 beds filled on February the 9th. Despite the good position the island is getting to, Miss Oldham is still urging people to stick to the government guidance as the numbers are still high. Ms Oldham also said it will take some time for the full impact of the sheer number of cases earlier in the year to be felt, as it works its way through the NH Trust, with each service expected to see peaks. Elective procedures are yet to start again at the Trust after they were stopped due to pressures on other services caused by the influx of cases, but Ms Oldham said they will be restarting as soon as possible. Ms Oldham thanked all the staff and volunteers in the organisation for all the work and support they have given during the pandemic, some members working for weeks on end.
Hello, this is Sue reading an article from the Isle of Wight County Press. Emergency services called after woman falls into quay following medical incident. Emergency service teams were called to the Newport Quay on Wednesday afternoon to a report of a person suffering a medical episode and subsequently falling into the water. At around 12:30 p.m, Coast Guard rescue teams from Ventnor and the Needles were joined by Cowes lifeboat and police officers to assist the woman, who's in her 60s. Before they arrived on the scene, the woman had been assisted by a member of the public who threw in a number of buoyancy aids and stayed with her. The woman was taken to St Mary's Hospital by police following the incident, although no serious injuries have been reported.
Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. St John Ambulance joins forces with Isle of Wight Ambulance Service. St John Ambulance, SJA, is joining forces with the Isle of Wight Ambulance Service, IWAS, with 999 urgent and emergency responses. The charity is providing mutual aid in supporting the island community during what continues to be an incredibly busy time for urgent and emergency services. It is part of a national contingency strategy. Throughout January and February, the demand on the Isle of Wight Ambulance Service has risen, and COVID-19 related staff absences have put additional pressure on the service. Victoria White, head of Isle of Wight Ambulance Service, welcomes the support. Victoria said, "We are very thankful to St John Ambulance for offering to work alongside us. Their support will help us to continue to care for our community as efficiently and effectively as possible during the pandemic." St John Ambulance have highly skilled and professional ambulance crews, which include paramedics, emergency ambulance crew, technicians and other staff. All the paramedics have a minimum of 2 years post-registration experience. Many of their vehicles are specifically designed to transport patients with additional complex needs, for example, high dependency, and people who are extremely obese, and they are well equipped with the highest quality supplies, consumables and equipment. Dan Bevis, National Head of Ambulance Operations, St John Ambulance, said, "St John Ambulance crews have been working alongside the NHS nationally since the start of the pandemic, and we're pleased to be able to lend our support to the Isle of Wight to ensure services can continue to operate smoothly during times of increased demand and pressure." The first SJA crew arrived on the island last week to join the Isle of Wight Ambulance Service and are based at the Newport SJA headquarters.
This is Den reading from the Isle of Wight County Press. Seahorses found on Isle of Wight shore. Here's what we know. Reports of an increased number of seahorses washed up dead on the shoreline of the Isle of Wight have led to concerns for the creatures. The Isle of Wight Nature Facebook group showed several dead seahorses, prompting speculation as to what had caused the upsurge. But a marine life scientist contacted by the county press said it was not something that had reached him, and in general things were looking good for the species in local waters. Roger Herbert, who lives in Newport but works at Bournemouth University, said, "I am no expert on seahorses. However, I suspect the incidents were due to strong easterly winds last week that disturbed their habitat, seagrass and filamentous algae. We have seen increase in sightings of seahorses in recent years, especially in the Solent." Comments on Kim Brown's Isle of Wight Nature page post suggested similar weather-related groundlings as well as illegal fishing dragging along the Bottomou waters.
This is an article from On the Wight, read by Terry. Hotel plans for former site of the Little Gloucester. The award-winning restaurant closed its doors last year, but plans have been submitted by the building's owner to change upstairs into hotel rooms. Changes have been proposed for the site of a once popular Gurnard restaurant and B&B. A planning application has been submitted to the Isle of Wight Council to change part of former Little Gloucester restaurant and the accommodation above into hotel rooms following its closure in September last year. Ben and Holly Cook announced in June last year the restaurant and rooms on Marsh Pond would close. The award-winning family-run business based in Gurnard had been going for 10 years before it made the hard decision to close. Drawings submitted by planning agents on behalf of the owner of the building, John Dart, who had previous planning applications for alterations approved in 2006, show the space above would be transformed to include a living area, kitchen, study and 4 bedrooms with bathrooms. The ground floor is to stay as a restaurant. To view the plans, 21/0167/FUL in capital letters, you can view the council's planning portal, which you put in to a web search, Council's Planning Portal. Comments on the application can be submitted until the 12th of March.
Hello, this is an article from the Isle of Wight County Press, read by Sue. Prezzo to close Isle of Wight branch. Restaurant chain Prezzo is to close its Isle of Wight branch, leaving a further empty premises on Newport High Street. Prezzo has listed the branches that will close for good as part of a rescue deal and has included the Island restaurant. The company said 216 jobs are at risk, with 22 restaurants to permanently shut their doors. There are no plans to reopen once lockdown restrictions are relaxed. Prezzo was in the town's former post office. The post office moved to the cooperative on the Pyle Street/South Street, which has also closed this month. Pizza Express has also recently closed in the town.
This is Chris reading an article from the Isle of Wight County Press. Isle of Wight is voted UK's #1 holiday island destination. The Isle of Wight has been named in a poll of the top UK destinations by a global travel firm and is the only island to feature. Big 7 Travel compiled the list following a poll of their readers' favourite UK staycation destinations who are looking forward to travelling when it is safe to do so. The Isle of Wight was placed at number 6 in the countdown, making it the only island in the top 10 and seeing off competition from popular locations such as Bath, Manchester and the Norfolk Broads. Highlighting the stunning sandy beach vibrant local culture and rich prehistoric history, the article also points out the popular English heritage attraction at Osborne. Will Miles, Managing Director at Visit Isle of Wight, said, "Again, the Isle of Wight features strongly in a national poll of where to visit for your UK holiday. For those of us who live, work and play here, we already know it is amazing. To get that national stamp of approval just emphasises it. Our island people and our island businesses should all be justly proud." Meanwhile, the Daily Mirror ranked Shanklin Beach at number 19 in its list of the top 50 beaches in the UK, which was published earlier this week.
Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for Wight, introducing you to this week's Talking News. We have received some sad news this week that a long-standing volunteer, Mel Barnes, has passed away peacefully. Mel has worked for the charity for many years, volunteering for groups which he led. I did manage to speak to him a couple of times since Christmas, and he spoke so heartwarmingly of the joy that it had brought him when members regained some independence they'd lost due to sight loss. He really will be missed. Thank you very much, Mel, for everything you did. We have also received the sad news that 2 of our members, who were very active in the social groups, have also passed away. Our thoughts are with the families and friends of everybody affected by any recent loss, especially in these difficult times when wakes and funerals could not be as active as we all wish. Next Monday brings Boris's latest announcement on COVID-19 secure measures. We are hoping it will bring news that children can return to school and that perhaps some retail and non-essential businesses are able to open. Of course, the safety of everybody must come first, and it may be worth considering that a longer lockdown now may result in no future spikes or large reoccurrences of the virus. Everyone here at Sight for Wight wishes everybody the warmest wishes. Thank you, Lisa.
Scaffolding news, week commencing the 22nd of February 2021. Shanklin area, 9 Regent Street, 5 to 7 Landguard Road, 48 Regent Street. Ventnor area, 158 High Street, Co-op Pier Street. Ryde area, 51 George Street, Passageway St Mary's Passage. Godshill area, Woods Kitchen High Street. Newport area, 25 and 27 Lugley Street. Halifax High Street. Sandown area, Beechgrove Surgery High Street Lake. Corkheads Restaurant Avenue Road. Flat C St George's Hall. Cowes area, Prince's Building 9 Bath Road. 106 Park Road. Yarmouth area, Grove Cottage St James's Street. Skip news. Ryde area, 30 Arthur Street. Outside of Woodlands, Ryde Road, Sea View. Yarmouth area, Loveshaw House, High Street. Newport area, opposite 61 Elm Grove. Binstead area, 55 Hillrise Avenue. Shanklin area, 25 Donington Drive. Ventnor area, 15 Steep Hill Court. Malmesbury Cottage, Manor Road, Wroxall. Cowes area, 31 Tennyson Road. East Cowes area, 63 Grange Road.
Sight for Wight would like to thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Talking News. We would also like to thank our volunteers for reading, and a particular thank you to the Isle of Wight County Press, On the Wight, Island Echo, Isle of Wight Radio, and a special thank you to Vectis Radio.